Okay, so it's not real, but it's Brazilian. I think you would be interested in architecture. So that's what happened. You know, all over the country, people were protesting. In Rio, in June, more than 1 million people took the streets. And why are people protesting? And for a long time, there was this debate. I mean, what are people protesting about? And they don't have a clear agenda, etc., etc., etc. The sparkle that brought all these people to the street was a quite small protest in São Paulo. In São Paulo, there is this group, this organization by young people that have been defending that transportation should be free. That you should not pay for transportation, as in Brazil, for example, we don't pay for education and we don't pay for health, it's public. And so they were saying that transportation should be free. Well, we could agree with this or not, but there was a moment, there was a small bus fare increase. But a small bus fare increase represents a lot for those who doesn't have that much. And then they took the streets to protest against those fares. And there was a brutal repression of the police. Totally, in a scale that was totally nonsense. Really violent. Protesters were beaten, reporters were beaten, and suddenly this sparkle took the next week when people only to the streets of Rio and protests all over the city. I don't know how many hundreds of cities, like in 2 days or something like that. Everybody was in the streets. Everybody, all the social classes, everybody makes in the streets. Of course, social media played that role, as it did 2 months before Istanbul, as it did in Arabic Spring. And the way I read that is that the cities just don't give people what they need. The way the cities are running does not satisfy the basic people needs. So going back to Rio, this is an art piece by an artist from Rio. And so there's this amazing image, let's say the most iconographic image of the city, let's say the most ordinary at the same time, that you see all the time. And then there is this phrase. This phrase has a double meaning in Portuguese. Eu só vendo a vista means I only sell the view. And at the same time means I only sell for cash, which is a popular phrase that you can find in restaurants that you don't accept credits or checks, etc. You have to pay, or you cannot, what you say, hand and pay the end of the month. So you have to pay cash. So this is from '98, but I think this is really about today, and it's really about the moment that we are living. I mean, how Rio will position itself in this moment that the Brazilian economy has grown in the past 10 years. Now it's a little bit, I mean, not that higher standards anymore, but it's in a new position in the globe, it's a new player in the globe, and Rio de Janeiro have the Olympic Games, we just had the World Cup. So, I mean, the eyes of the world are directed to Rio. Probably all of you, when you were invited to come to Rio, said, oh, Rio. So, Rio has always been the most, or one of the most emblematic cities in Latin America. So, what our culture, what does being Latin American means, is pretty much related to Rio. And so, how do we position ourselves in this moment? Are we selling for cash? What are we selling? And how does this affect the people who live in the city? So I think this is a crucial debate in the city. So this is a very, let's say, superficial position, but it's a position which is reproduced a lot, which means the morro is the Portuguese word for hills, and the asphalt is the asphalt. So people who live in the hill and people who live in the asphalt. So this is a city where 2 different realities coexist in the territory at the same time. The red dots are the favelas and the regular settlements. So this is the municipality of Rio, and the favelas and the regular settlements are spread all around. We are here. So this is the downtown, Copacabana, Ipanema. Lima, the west zone, which is, let's say, the American suburbia, and the north zone, where most of the workers live. So, everything, people, and this is very particular about Rio because due to the geography of the city, the coastline, the hills, etc., the favelas are inside the city. And this, I like to say that this is a way that we do our, let's say, even meaningful, evil way. It's a way of inclusive housing somehow. So more or less people live where opportunities are. And the fact that the favelas are inside the city, not to all of them spread in, around the city, the periphery, is a way that different people meet, different people clash, different cultures mingle. So I think this is absolutely central to understand our culture. And then this is what happened in the past decade. So in the space of 5 years, this is how we define our social classes, A and B. A is super healthy, B is quite healthy, C is, let's say, the average middle class, and D and E is miserable. So what happened is that this class has grown, this class has grown, and this class diminished by half. So all the Brazilian society moved up. So life really changed in Brazil. And then, I mean, what does it mean life really changed? The way that we are developing our country, the way that they are developing our cities, is pretty much focused on consumerism. So it's how industry can sell more, make more money, etc. So what happened in the past 10 years that we just can't move in the cities because they're full of cars. So no, it's really based on acquiring goods and not long-lasting goods or not investing on infrastructure. So, and when we look at the favela, 60% of this middle class, which is considered the engine of the Brazilian growth, there are many studies now coming out about this middle class, middle class, 60% lives in the favelas. So 6% of these people are in these territories that you have no kind of infrastructure, that you still have, and you have even worse, drug dealers control, no basic services, etc., etc., etc. And this is what happens. Look, we were talking about 2005 to 2010, this is 2004 to 2008. This is the same place. That building here is that building there. This is a favela in the west zone of the city that has about 80,000 inhabitants, 80,000. We are working in this favela of Studios. This was the opening of a road as part of a numbering convention by the city, so they were giving more popularity. And this is how people occupied the empty spots that the street opening produced by themselves. So, I mean, there is not any regulation. There is not, let's say, official money, but you see how people can regulate themselves and invest themselves. Of course, this is not the reality of all the favelas. The favelas are pretty much diverse, but you can have a sense of the strength and the power of this economy. So we're not talking about miserables anymore. We're talking about 20% of the people, because 20% of the people in Rio live in favela that have this capacity to transform the city. And then I think this is a crucial question, which is how do you address the idea of center and periphery? By center is not only geographic center, but by center we understand that the people who take the decisions, the people who are the cultural leaders, the architects, decision makers. How does these people negotiate with the periphery? Know that the periphery now not only talking about the favelas, but we're talking about half of the population of Brazil. So how is Brazil being able to incorporate these people into the planning for the future? And so I like very much this picture because this boy has a very particular aesthetic. He has his football player haircut, blonde, and his clothes. He's in a favela house, but you can see how proud he is. You can see proudness in his face. He has, I cannot find another word which is a synonym of proudness. What? Oh yes, this is the housing secretariat. But I don't want to go to that. So the question is, when we plan how to bring people to the debate and how what you're planning also reflects the aesthetics of this city plan, which I think is also a crucial question. What is driving us? What kind of architecture we're producing? Is the architecture the Eurocentric architecture with the masters that we know, that are established, spectacular architecture until the 2009? Or are we going to start to look at these people and try to understand which are their codes and try to bring them to the conversation? I think this is a crucial question that we are really far from understanding. So, now talking about what is going on in the city. This moment of huge transformation in the city has two major projects. I never saw not even one major project in the city until my 30-something, and now we have two major projects going on at the same time. The one is the renovation of the port area, which is this slide here, and the other one is the Olympics, which are those red dots. The shadows of gray, they identify the population density around the city. So you can see that here there is a coincidence, but here there is not. So here is where the real population lives. The wealthy and the poor. You can find Olympic dots, for example, in the poor area of the city. Even this is it's large in the surface, but it's small in the capacity to affect the territory, like shooting some really stupid Olympic. Sorry, maybe someone else. And here the core of the Olympics is here, which is very wealthy neighborhood, where real estate is already building without any need of help from government. So the question is, we live in a schizophrenic city. Because at the same time that the city does this, which is about urban voids, which is about existing infrastructure, which is about reinforcing the city center, which is about a place where the whole metropolis can access because there is transportation. At the same time that the city is doing this, the city is investing here in the urban sprawl, in the gated communities, acquire new land, having to build new, expensive infrastructure. So, what moment is this that these two things happen at the same time? Who's going to win the battle? And this illustrates, I think this illustrates well that schizophrenic condition. This is the project for the Olympic Athletes Village in Barra da Tijuca. The green is not to make it look green. The green is because it's really green. And this is the Athletes and Judges and Media Village, which was planned for the downtown. There was a competition, and it's high density commerce in the street, integrated to the city. In the end, they abandoned this, and we still don't know where it's going to happen. But the point is, these two are housing for the Olympics. And these two things are happening at the same time. Condo, and urban housing. So the Ponto Maravilha, we are here. So we walked until here, then we came back, blah blah blah, more or less this. We did this. So this is the size of the port area. This mountain chain separates the port from the rest of the city. I don't remember the numbers of the surface of the port area, but this is a really major project. This is the original coastline. And everything beyond that, where you see the regular grid, was a landfill that was built in the beginning of the 19th century, the 20th century, which is the retroport. So all this land was made available. The city has this land for more than 30 years, and due to the political alignment between federal, state, city, etc., they finally managed how to move forward. And basically what they did, it was very smart in terms of financial operation, but very poor in terms of urbanistic approach. Their financial operation is that they flattened the areas, because it was all public owned, and they did a bid for the air rights. And with the money they acquired from the bid of the air rights, they are building the infrastructure and doing a concession to operate this infrastructure for 22 years. So it worked until now. The bid was won by a state bank, so we don't know exactly how feasible it is or not, but the fact is that the city got the money to make this implementation without having to spend from its own pocket. But from the urbanist approach, there is no intelligence at all. It's a totally liberal regulation. You can build housing, but you can build corporate, and of course, housing cannot compete with corporate. The profits you make building corporates are much higher than housing, so it's all being sold as corporate. And when we look at this stuff, the downtown of Rio, that we already mentioned to you, that for 40 years was prohibited to have new housing being built. I mean, there's of course a missed opportunity. Of course, there's a missed opportunity to put a lot of people living in here, to diminish the commuting, etc., etc., etc. So the urbanistic approach is really poor. Lots of parking lots, etc., etc. But I think one of the good things of this project is the demolition of the highway which we didn't see today. So I think this is really going to transform the urban quality. And I like to compare this with Copacabana. I think this is going to, Copacabana is of course you all know it's the most famous waterfront of the city, oceanfront. And I think this is going to have a huge impact. Because it's, the scale of this, I think it's on a scale which is equivalent to Copacabana. Without Buddha marks, but as an urban space, it's going to be fine. So, the question is how we share with the city. This is an image of the occupation by police of Rocinha, one of the largest slums in the city. So, since 2007 or 8 or something like this, police is acquiring new territories from drug dealers. And what it means pacification, unity of pacification police. It means that they bring fresh policemen from academy, because the institution is totally corrupt, and they put their permanent. So this is the moment of the occupation. But then after that, now we are going through a series of troubles, but this is because police doesn't solve all the problems. It can, it's great that a mother can go work and knows that their kids are in a favela, that there's no shooting all the day, but is it enough? And when we look at this is the new Olympic Park bar, very flash image, but who's accessing this? is for this condo. This condo already has swimming pools, tennis courts, football fields, gourmet, whatever. So who's going to access this? So the question is, how are we going to share the city? And then we come back to the very first slide. That's why people are in the streets. Because there is a lot to do to change the way the city is. So this is the first time, the first part of the lecture. And then I'm going to call Evan, and we are going to make the two in a row. And after that, we have a moment of conversation, okay?